From 5.2 million all the way back in game week 7 to just outside the top 10k, in today's video we're going to be running through my transfer targets ahead of game week 28. Now, before we start today's video, of course, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as we are trying to hit 12,500 subscribers by the end of the season, and it is only possible with your guys' amazing support. As you can see, so far it has been an amazing week. As you can see, just sat outside the top 10k with our rank post subs. Of course, getting very fluky with Morgan Rogers coming in for Alexander Isak. However, sometimes you do have to just take those little bits of luck. Of course, Cliver with his absolutely worldy yesterday. Visser as well cooking up another goal. I was so close to taking him out for Cunha. I'm ridiculously happy that I didn't do that. Trent has been phenomenal over the past few weeks. Southampton up next as well. Feeling really confident. And of course, the decision to captain Salah over Cole Palmer has worked out. It was only an assist in the end. Not too much in terms of damage. But still, it's all going to work in our favour. There is still one more game to go. Jared Bowen is probably the biggest impact in terms of our rank. We'll probably drop, I reckon, a couple hundred places. But nothing too major, as he's not one of the kind of the main owned players. All I want to say, though, is this is absolutely wild this season, to be honest. The roller coaster that we've been on, like I said in the intro, back in game week 7, we were at 5.2 million. Now we're just sat outside the top 10k. If you have a poor start or, FPL is just not going your way, sometimes it just takes a little bit of luck, a little bit of planning, and you can get yourself back on track. So don't give up if you've had a couple bad game weeks. You can very easily get yourself back on track. Let's take a look then at how my team would line up if I was to make absolutely zero transfers next game week. And that potentially is an option. Obviously, I'm looking to build as many transfers into blank game week 29 with me not free hitting there. So obviously I want to start out by saying Alexander Isak missed out on the Liverpool game today. That was due to a tight groin. Of course, we've got quite a wait till game week 28 actually kicks off. It's not this weekend because FA Cup. Then, of course, it is the following weekend. We've got a Champions League break in there as well. So we are going to obviously have plenty of time for Alexander to recover if it is just a minor injury. And that would be the ideal situation with a decent fixture against West Ham. However, I think if it's, not a long-term injury, it's one of those, isn't it, where he could be replaced. Obviously, I'm going to talk about some potential replacements a little bit later on in today's video that I could go for if it is more a longer term injury and look to pick him back up on the wild card in game week 31. But we do have Rodgers on the bench ready and raring to go if it was to go down to that. That's how the team would line up if we didn't have any changes to make. But let's head into my transfer targets for game week 28. Now, before we head into the players that I am looking to buy, I do want to just caveat it and say this was filmed before the games on Wednesday night. So if any of the players that I do talk about, I think there only is one that we're going to talk about, does pick up an injury or, of course, goes off or suspended or anything like that, please ignore me. I'll update what I'm actually planning on doing in the comment section if that is the case. Obviously, I wanted to start off talking about game week 29 because it is going to be such a big game week where people are going to differ in terms of their strategies. So I thought I would outline mine over the next few weeks in this section of the video as well. So my plan is not to free hit in 29. My initial plan was to try and build as many transfers as possible going into that week, use them to put out a decent starting 11. There might now be a -4 potentially in play, but we'll talk through that in a second. So obviously looking at the fixtures, we've got 2 Liverpool players. We still have Morgan Rogers kicking about as well. We've obviously got Hall and Isak, and we have Munoz as well. So we've got a lot of work to do with our transfers to, of course, target this game week. But my strategy is not going to be to use the free hit. It's going to be using it in game week 34. So do bear that in mind when looking at some of the players I am targeting in the next few weeks. Now, starting off first, it is going to be a luxury transfer. Now, if you were fortunate enough to be in the deadline stream, I was talking about potentially making this move ahead of game week 27. It was going to be taking out Visser, and it was going to be moving to Cunha. Now, Visser, of course, hasn't played in game week 27 so far. He plays tonight, hopefully puts in a decent performance. And at the time, before the deadline, I was very, very convinced I was going to sell Vissa to Cunha next game week. Now I'm not so sure on this move, to be honest. Obviously, it is a luxury because, of course, Vissa has a fixture in game week 29. It would automatically mean I am going to be looking at a -4 if I wanted to do this move. But the big appeal for me of going with Cunha probably is the fact that he would be my captain for game week 29. And I do feel like having the captain, or one of the best captains available for that game week against such a poor side in Southampton, who are the worst side for XG conceded, is probably going to be worth that -4 in my opinion. And I think longer term as well, looking at that game week 30 fixture, obviously our plan is to wildcard in game week 31. I think the West Ham fixture is better for Cunha than it is for Newcastle. And looking at the wild card as well, he is probably going to be a player that will be featuring on that wild card. So maybe getting in early ahead of quite a few price changes is probably going to be more beneficial than holding on to Vissa, who I do think in game week 29 hasn't got the best fixture away at Bournemouth. Then in game week 30, Newcastle away. I don't think they're the ideal fixtures for my striker. However, the thing that has kind of piqued my interest is the very, very poor performance that Aston Villa put in defensively last night. Obviously, as well, we've seen that they've obviously started picking up some defensive injuries as well. So Villa at home might be another one where I think maybe I just keep Vissa for that one as well. He could do exceptionally well in that week. There isn't too much to split between the two. I probably would say Cunha slightly edges it, purely down to the fact that he is the talisman for this Wolves side on a lot of free kicks, corners, penalties, and his BPS, his baseline BPS, is absolutely incredible. I spoke at length about that in the transfer targets video yesterday. So if you want to go and check that out, I will leave a link in the description for that one. But that's kind of where my head is at right now in terms of this move. I think because of how poor Villa were last night, obviously I'm going to wait and see what their Champions League performance is like, what of course their FA Cup results are like, before making that definitive move and potentially bringing in Cunha. But for right now, of course, this is a move I am potentially considering. On the other hand, there is another one that would require a -4, and this one is going to be dropping Cole Palmer out of the side and moving to Erling Haaland. Now, we'll take a look at this in FPL Team in a few short seconds, but I just wanted to talk through my thought process of dropping one premium for the other. Now, I don't think this one will be done in game week 28, purely because of how good that fixture is for Cole Palmer. Obviously, last night, if you went for him for captain, I do feel you are a little bit unfortunate. You know, he definitely had the chances against a weakened side. They managed to score 4. He was unfortunate not to have came away with at least 1 goal. So I do think people, you know, that didn't captain him probably have got away with one a little bit. However, I do think I still want to keep him for game week 28. Game week 29 and 30, though, don't interest me as much. Obviously, Arsenal away, really difficult fixture. Arsenal actually have really good numbers on the 11-5 clean sheet odds as well. I think it's around a 42% chance of a clean sheet. So that doesn't bode well, having an 11.1 premium midfielder in there. Whereas if we look to Haaland, game week 29 is Brighton at home. Definitely captaincy material, of course, with Salah blanking in that game week. You know, the main man that so many of us have kind of resorted to. I think, you know, Haaland probably is going to be one of those top candidates for captaincy that week. Then in game week 30 as well, probably is going to be the best captaincy option with, of course, Leicester at home, an absolutely stellar fixture. So I think potentially maybe rejigging this team and again taking a -4 to get the best captain in for game week 29 and 30, then looking to wildcard. And he might be a player that does feature on the wildcard as well over the next few weeks, with, of course, potential doubles coming up for Manchester City. I think he could be a player that maybe we start to look to and get in early. Now, of course, there was rumours about him potentially being out for the game tonight. He is featuring, so we'll have to wait and see how he gets on. But I think if he does smash it, he's definitely going to be a player that is going to be very high in demand over the next few weeks. And like I said, having that top captaincy player for game week 29 could be really, really good for how we're looking to set up this team. Obviously, that is my transfer plans for the upcoming game weeks. Now, let's put it in theory. Let's take a look at all the options I've got heading into game week 28 and, of course, 29 in FPL.team. Okay, let's start out with option 1. As you can see, this is game week 28. This would be the Vissa to Cunha move if we were to go ahead and do this one. As you can see, team looking pretty decent. Of course, we would captain Mohamed Salah for game week 28. Heading to the blank game week, though, we do have 2 free transfers and quite a lot of work to do. So we'd probably slot him in there. One of the players I'm really looking forward to potentially picking up is somebody like a Gavardiol or a Gabriel in this slot. So he would probably go in there. Then we've got the choice. Do we, you know, drop ISAK? Do we drop Salah? Probably not, in my opinion. So we probably go for something like this with a Bowen chucked in there. drop him in there. And then I think the final player we probably would go and pick up in this scenario is somebody like an 8 Nuri. It would, like I said, of course, cost us a -4 to put this team together. Then we've, I think, got a choice between captaincy between Chris Wood and Cunha. I probably would lean more towards Cunha, purely down to the fact of his pure just like outside of just scoring goals appeal. He obviously is the key man for this side, and I do feel like it probably would be a toss-up, but I still think Southampton are probably worse than Ipswich, so we would go with Cunha for like that one. Then, of course, in game week 30, this is how the team would look. Pretty decent. Obviously, we'd have all our big boys to bring back in, so Mohamed Salah would probably come in ahead of probably Mbeumo away at Newcastle. ISAK would probably come in as well, probably ahead of Aina like that, and we probably line up with that one. A ridiculously good looking bench, to be honest, but I think that team looks pretty decent. Heading into that week, of course, captaincy probably would go back on Mohamed Salah. Moving on to the second option, of course, this is the Erling Haaland option. So if we go back to game week 28, obviously we would make no transfers there. Then heading into game week 29, of course, we'd drop Palmer for somebody like Dango. Of course, we've got a little bit of money in the bank, so that could be potentially somebody else if we wanted to go for it. And I think with him coming off last night for Evan Nielsen, probably makes this move less appealing in my opinion. As you can see, we've gone for Bowen, we've gone for Gvardiol again as well. But it does mean that we do miss out on, of course, no Cunha, and we would have Visser in here, but Haaland would be a great captain for this week. And of course, the main appeal would be that game week 30 captain here with, of course, Haaland there at home against Leicester. However, it's not a bad fixture for Mohamed Salah either. So is the captaincy appeal that big in game week 30 that I don't, that I desperately need Erling Haaland? I'm not 100% sure. I think Salah, of course, is doing absolutely stupendous at the moment in this season. So it's a real hard one to obviously call. Then the final option, of course, is going to be that we just roll this week. It's a very, very strong team. I don't mind playing it. Of course, we could put Rodgers in here if we wanted, but we'd probably roll. We'd head into game week 29 with 3 transfers in hand. As you can see, I bought in Gvardiol, I bought in Bowen already. We'd have one more free transfer. Now, we could either do ISAK to Cunha, but I think I'm going to keep ISAK because of the amount of value I've built in him. And of course, I want him on the wild card and for the upcoming doubles for Newcastle as well. So we could do that as a move, but I don't think I probably would. The ideal move would probably be either dropping Hall or Munoz. Now, I'm more tempted to keep Munoz purely down to the fixture that they've got in game week 30 of Southampton. So I probably would drop Hall to somebody like 8 Nuri, and we probably would just line up like that. And I don't mind that. I think that's a pretty decent team, to be honest. Obviously, we would go with Chris Wood for captaincy against Ipswich. Not a bad fixture, but not the best. I do feel like Cunha could be a big miss in this side. Obviously, having Cole Palmer against Arsenal as well, not the ideal situation. We'd head into game week 30, though, and I think the team would look pretty decent, to be honest. Obviously, Munoz would probably come in for him. And I think, we'd probably drop Visser to the bench, and probably Mbeumo would also drop to the bench as well, and we'd probably go something like that. Maybe it's a toss-up between Wood and Mbeumo. Again, the bench is looking ridiculously strong for that week. But those are currently where my head is at in terms of the transfer plans. Of course, I will finalise it once, of course, the Champions League fixtures are done, once the FA Cup fixtures are done, and we've got maybe a little bit of a better idea of how potentially some teams are lining up heading into game week 29. But let me know which way you would go down in the comment section below. And of course, if you've enjoyed today's video, make sure you're hitting like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and thank you very much for watching.